The push for common sense to return to sports in Canada isn't quite there. And today I bring you an update to our special campaign called Protect Female Athletes. That's where we've had many of you go send emails to demand that Coach Taylor Claggett of the Columbia Bible College Bearcats have the suspension lifted that was placed upon her from the Pacific Western Athletic Association, the league that governs college sports. Today, I'm inside of the school as the girls, the female players, play one of their final season games against Douglas College. And after, people have come together in their support to watch the game wearing the stand-up shirts, Play for Taylor shirts that the girls wore after their coach's suspension, and were told they'd be suspended if they did so too. What do you make of how your school, how your players, and most importantly, how Coach Taylor Claggett is being portrayed in media?
I was a player last year. Currently, she's being portrayed as one of the bad guys, and that's super unfortunate because nobody was willing to listen to her side of the story after everything that had happened. And being as a bystander and somebody who looks up to Taylor, it just breaks my heart because it's unfair.
You can see stand up and on the back of my shirt, Play for Taylor. With any competitive sports, if you do not have your head coach, you're at extremely disadvantage, not only strategically, but you've been training for a year together, and they have a system and they have a culture, and you remove that. It's like removing a parent from a home. Yeah, so it's a tremendous negative impact on the team.
Well, I came out to show my support for everyone that wants to protect the female category. I think today female athletes are being traumatized by this experience. I think they're being silenced, and I'm here to show them that there is a bit of hope in my sport, in my category of strong women. They actually created a third category. They felt that there was a very obvious need for a new category, and they listened to the athletes and they created one.
I just want to support women's rights and girl rights to safely play sport, right? Because I heard that there is a male that was actually on the other teams, and I think the coach Taylor was making some argument about it, and she was suspended. And I think she's the only actually woman coach in all the coach of the Pac West organization. Is that correct?
Out of all the head coaches, Taylor Claggett is the only female getting kicked out for standing up for females in sports.
Yeah, is that crazy? So, and I have two girls. One of my girls play basketball in Abbotsford. So basketball. Yeah, so that's it's kind of important for dad to stand up with that kind of things. If everybody complain and nobody show up, well, nothing is going to change.
Well, my son, I'm here at the Columbia Bible College, and my son played here, and then he went on to play university. He's 6'5", 260 pounds. He said to me the other day, "Well, what if I pretended that I was of a different gender? Who would stop me?" And so if they can't draw a line on biological sex, it makes absolutely no sense. So I'm out here to support the coach because the coach is experiencing what happened to me. The idea that they use things like, it's human rights, it's safety, it's corporate policy. Well, all those are wrong then. You don't punish a coach for defending her players.
I think something that Taylor brings as a coach, like with her past and her two assistant coaches, they played at UFV, and that's a whole different category, U Sport, and what they've learned at that time, in their time, they brought that with them as coaches, and it just influenced and made us better as players, but also as people. And they see the potential in each of their players, and they coordinate, strategize, plays to meet each of those players' unique talents. And so with Taylor as being one of our head coaches, or as our head coach, it's just been an absolute blessing to see. And she's definitely changed history. Like before she ever became a college coach, like the program before they weren't winning games, and so in her first year, she broke history. We made like one weekend we scored 100 points, and that was big for CBC. We made it to playoffs. And that was also huge for CBC. So like every weekend last year, we were breaking records and making history. And I think that just goes to show how well of a coach Taylor Claggett is, and with Alexis and Victoria as our assistant coaches too. So it's a huge impact, and it's absolutely heartbreaking to see the image that the media has painted her, because it's not true.
Well, and to see her gone just before the end of the season, I've heard she's not even allowed to watch the games. Do you know anything about that?
To my knowledge, due to her suspension, she is not allowed to coach the rest of the in-season games and also playoffs. So with that being said, she's not allowed to come to the games in person.
So when I look at the stats, VIU is currently sitting at the top right now, right? And then CBC is second. But if you've been following the reports, then you guys know there were 2 games that were boycotted where VIU said, oh, they don't feel safe enough to play at CBC. So will Pac West be punishing them for that as they forfeited, essentially? And if they do, what happens?
Well, the rules are fairly clear. If you don't show up for these reasons, it's not like it was a snowed out event or they weren't physically able to come to this location. They decided on their own to not come, so I believe that it should be forfeited. I heard that there is a conflict of interest between the VIU athletics director being involved at a very, very high level at the Pac West.
President Danielle Hyde.
And I hope that there's somebody can look into this because that is a grave conflict of interest, and it's against competition, and it's unfair.
Well, absolutely. I did reach out to PacWest for that very reason. I asked them, how on earth is this school supposed to get a fair shot, even at an appeal, to try to change the decision if Danielle Hyde, the athletic director of VIU, the prized one, as you're seeing here, is also the president. And not only that, morale goes down, which is also important, but there's people who came out to help boost morale. You've got your shirt on. There's a lot of people in there. Do you know anything about what that means to your daughter or the teammates?
Well, they are fighters and they want to compete because that's what they signed up to do. And they feel it's not fair. I feel it's not fair. And if somebody did some investigative reporting or investigating into what the Pac West is doing, maybe some of the strategies that they are employing, but I believe there's a big conflict of interest there. CBC is one of the top teams, if not the first team, definitely the second ranked team. And so if VIUs and CBC and Douglas College, who we're playing tonight, are fighting for a playoff spot, somebody is at an advantage here, especially removing Coach Taylor. And also CBC, which is Columbia Bible College, was supposed to host the tournament, the playoff tournament this year. And I believe that's been stripped as well.
So they've asked, because of all the backlash they've had, that there's no recording from anyone in there. But why don't you describe to the people, I was in there too, how many people are wearing the shirts? What's the support like in there?
Well, I went there, and it is almost 1/4 of the sections at the end there that is all covered with this nice T-shirt, if you want to see it. And that for the supports of Taylor, probably around 30 people so far. So yeah, a lot of people have been buying the shirts right there. So I think it's people don't want males in women's sport. It's like people don't want children to be on puberty blockers, and most of the people they don't want children to be mutilated in our countries. And now with all the politics that is happening in US, that is kind of influencing what is happening in Canada, I think the common sense movement is coming back. So I think if we show up to those events and told them that we don't want male in women's sport, which is common sense, we don't want our girls to be hurt, and we want the sport to be fair too, right? Now you bring that woman there, and she kind of that man there, and he kind of win he wins a lot of record. He breaks some record. And, you know, it's almost guaranteed that the team is going to win with that guys on the team. So it brings no fairness in sport. It's like having, a 250 boxer fighting 150 boxers. It's like if you eliminate all the categories in boxing. There is a reason why there is category even in male sport. Now imagine if you start to mix male and female, it doesn't make any sense.
You're a school trustee for Abbotsford.
Yes, I've been a school trustee since 2022. It's been an honor.
Okay. And after President Trump signed that executive order booting men out of women's sports, you had the tweet on the screen to say where you basically applauded it. You said it's about time, and it's also time to stop confusing kids about their gender, right?
Well, I do believe what President Trump did was common sense. I do not believe that biological males should be competing with females, and that's, of course, why I'm here today. You know, I think that Taylor really has been a victim of aggressive partisans. They're coming from this radical gender ideology. That's correct. And, at the end of the day, really all the women are asking for is fairness and safety. That's really what it comes down to. And I think that's what that bill was all about in the States. It's nothing to do with whether you like or don't like Donald Trump. It really just has to do with a common sense policy that I believe is in the best interest of women and girls. And I have 2 daughters, and so I want to stand up for women and girls. And I believe that my community that I serve overwhelmingly holds this view. And so as a school trustee, I have to stand up for the opinions of my community. It's not just my personal opinions. And I believe that that's what I'm doing.
Now you're here to stand up for the Bearcats and their right to play fairly and safely in their basketball sport. Are you not scared that that is also going to have some negative impacts on potentially your school trustee position?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. At the end of the day, I believe that I'm standing up for a common sense position. I believe that I am representing a necessary view on an important topic. So whatever the consequences may be, I believe my calling is to be a voice for the people of this community, and that's exactly what I'm doing.
Now, what can you tell us about what's happening inside? They're saying no recording inside. Is there lots of support? What's happening?
There's quite a bit of people in the shirt with the Stand Up for Taylor in the audience, so that's really cool to see. There were no signs allowed. I did bring some, and they asked me to put them away. Eventually, I did. They did threaten the police several times.
Wow.
And we had the signs take it down, but there are quite a bit of people filming, and there are quite a bit of people in the black shirts, so that's good.
I interviewed Abbotsford school trustee Jared White, who's in trouble for standing up for this very issue about males they shouldn't be in these types of sports. But he was also on the board that gave you the boot for talking about how tuberculosis killed a lot of people during residential school time. So what do you make of that?
Well, thank you for asking. So I'm probably the only teacher in the Western world, in the democratic world, who has been fired for saying something that's an established truth, which is that those that died while enrolled in residential schools did so from accidents, fires, and lots of reasons, but mostly from disease. And what the Abbotsford School District was doing was telling people that, one school alone, they murdered 215 kids and secretly buried them at night. Well, what's interesting is one of the 7 trustees who fired me has now come over to the same side, that he talks about diversity of opinion. He talks about using common sense. He talks about people just having the ability to talk and negotiate and come to some sort of consensus. So he didn't do those things in my case, but I think probably was supportive is the fact that when the 7 decided to fire me, it was a majority decision. So I think Jared White was probably one of the 3 that was on my side. But I think what it's showing right now is these woke authoritarians who charge our institutions, that they're starting to see what's happening. They're going to end up themselves out of work or in court unless they quickly run away from this horrible woke ideology that's guided them. So I think it's all collapsing. And my case has been going on for over 4 years because the big school district has lots of money to spend, lots of taxpayer money to spend. But I said nothing wrong, and they've said all sorts of things are wrong. They've been manipulating and indoctrinating kids And I think one day they're going to get a very big lawsuit, and they're going to have also a very long apology to me. It's just a matter of time. And that's the same here. Nobody 5 years from now is going to think it's a good idea to put large men in with females, and not just on the court, but into female spaces generally, because in changing rooms and so forth. So it's team busted. There's lots of intimacy there that I think most females would not want to have violated.
Now, I'm going to circle back to something you said there about how common sense is starting to return on this issue. I assume you're talking about, in particular, in the United States. You've been tackling radical gender ideology in school when it comes to small children, especially. Do you feel like common sense is returning in that area in Canada?
Well, I think that's a tough one. If I feel it, I think it's coming back because I think common sense is coming back because the politicians start to talk about it, and it gives courage to the people. What I was wishing before is that common sense will come back from the peoples to the politicians, but it seems that it's only a few kind of people who have exposed gender ideology, like Bill Chris, myself, you did, and Amy Arm too. She did a good work with that, and many other people all across the country. I wish that it was not because of people like us that politicians will wake up, but it was just like common sense. That's it. That's all I wish. I wish that people would have more common sense and courage without the needs of having politicians to tell them what is good or bad.
From covering this, there is a lot of fear that these ladies that have fought so hard may miss their chance at nationals. If you look at this, they are in second place to VIU, which has the male player. So they're trying the best they can physically, and I know that they're appreciative of the support. Lots of family members have come up and said, thank you guys, thanks Rebel News. But I think there's some on the management side having a little bit of a heart attack. But look at this. Look at the posters that came out to support Harriet Mackenzie. You can see in this article, they said by the hundreds, people came out just to focus and weigh in on this issue. Anything else you wanted to add?
Nope. I hope that we do find a way to protect the female category, and I will keep supporting all the girls that want to protect it.
It seems PacWest does not want coaches or players taking a stand. So will you do the stand for them? Go to protectfemalaathletes.com, share our pre-written emails that are respectful but powerful in just a matter of seconds, and then share that campaign with others so they do the same.